Alright, this is the second of 3 reviews I plan to do covering 3 of my favorite Nukey Shay hacks, the late Nukey Shay. The first one being Pac-Man 8K. I wrote all 3 of these reviews back in 2015. Let's jump into it. Hack'em is a hack of an unreleased Pac-Man game, the Ebvision version, which later became the popular homebrew game Pesco. It was developed by the late great Atari user and programmer Nukey Shay, known for other hacks such as Bottomless Pitfall, Space Invaders Deluxe, Adventure 8K, Pac-Man 8K, to name a few. At first, I thought he named it Hack'em simply because he already used the name Pac-Man 8K, and Hack'em sounded kind of catchy. Now I realize the name fits really well. It is clear from the finished work what Nukey Shay had intended to accomplish was to make a more arcade-perfect version of Pac-Man for the Atari 2600, while at the same time extending its replay value, throwing in 2 separate Hack'em games and 2 Hangly Man games all in one. I have 2 cartridge versions, one an 8K variety and the other is a 16K variety, dated October 4th, 2006. For the purposes of this review, I'm discussing the 16K version, since it seems to have more features, fixes, and even includes a title screen. Hack'em is a single-player game. In addition to an improved version of Pac-Man, both cartridges contained 3 additional hacks, Hack'em 2, Hangly Man, and Hangly Man 2, making this a super value cartridge and a super value review. Hack'em 16K packs in a real nice title screen with several animations. The stationary ghosts are animated to the left of their names. The ghost names are neatly right justified. The C in Hack'em is animated to look like the Pac-Man chomping, and Hackman himself makes an appearance flowing in from the right side of the screen, followed by the 4 ghosts. When he gets all the way to the left and eats the power pill, all the ghosts turn blue in reverse direction with Hack'em in hot pursuit. As he eats each one of them, their point values are displayed. The power pill and wafer point values are also displayed. After consuming all 4 ghosts, he reaches the end of the screen and an in-game demo begins. Each time you press game reset on your console, it cycles through the various game modes, starting the in-game demo over. For the Hack'em 2/Hangly Man game type, once Hack'em dies, the title screen starts over showing the new ghost names, Macky, Mickey, Mucky, Mocky. Quite humorous and a departure from the arcade version of Hangly Man. I prefer these names to the Japanese names, which I will display on the screen because I can't read them. By continuing to press game reset, you will notice there are a total of 4 main mazes, or what I'm calling game modes, 2 blue and 2 green. The Hack'em maze layout mimicked the traditional arcade Pac-Man maze pretty closely and plays like it. You have a total of 4 power pills, 1 in each corner. There are 4 ghosts, and you have a fruit that appears in the center of the maze on each successive level. Upon eating the fruit, all of the ghosts are energized, turn blue, and can now be eaten. For the purposes of simplicity in this review, I refer to whatever object appears in the center of the map as fruit. After completing a level or losing a life, you must press the fire button to resume play. In a new level, you start with the same maze, except this time there's a different fruit. The amount of time the power pills last, blue time, has been slightly reduced and the ghosts are slightly faster. The images for the point values of consumed ghosts are 200 for the first ghost, 400 for the second ghost, 800 for the third ghost, 1600 for the 4th ghost, and 3200. This score is only possible on the plus modes after consuming 4 ghosts with double bonus. Hack'em 2. Now, by pressing game reset and switching to the first all-green wall map, you will find Hack'em 2. The only obvious difference being the walls are now green instead of dark blue. You will quickly realize the real difference after eating a few power pills. Some of the ghosts do not turn blue. Every time you eat the fruit in the center of the map, the ghosts are energized as if you ate a power pill. With the small exception they turn invisible while still roaming the map. This effect means you have to mentally track the invisible ghosts and try to figure out where they are in order to eat them. They remain invisible until they begin flashing. You also have the added bonus of the score being doubled for each consumed ghost, an extremely nice incentive to do well with the fruit. In this game mode, it is hard to tell, but the ghost patterns are slightly more aggressive. When you consume a power pill, the ghosts stay blue for a shorter period of time. The ghosts have additional detail added to their heads, a little apple stem or flags. Nukey Shay describes the fruit on this maze, Hack'em and Hanglyman 2, as Coke can, martini, pea pod, apples, grapes, Galaxian, loaf of bread, and stack of pancakes. After completing the first intermission and upon eating the first power pill, you will notice the entire maze disappears. All you see are the fruit, the ghosts, and Hack'em himself. At this point you are still constrained to the walls, so you must navigate from memory until you eat all the ghosts or until the power pill wears off. The disappearing wall effect seems to happen after every other consumed power pill. It also seems to happen at random for the rest of the game. For that matter, which ghosts turn blue upon eating an energized wafer also appears to be random in my best estimation. Nukey Shay has said these effects are not actually random, but do follow preset patterns. Hanglyman. In Hanglyman, we are presented with an alternate blue map. This map is interesting since it has multiple horizontal warp tunnels, 3 to be exact, along with several other minor tweaks. This game mode plays exactly the same as Hack'em, in that it has traditional Pac-Man / Hack'em rules where the power pills will always turn the ghost blue, and the fruit just gets eaten and has no special powers. The exception being, in this game there are 2 maps that alternate after completion. On Hanglyman Map 2, you'll notice 2 extra vertical warp tunnels. You'll also notice the absence of most interior walls in the map, a plethora of black space filled with wafers. This presents its own special challenges, ones that will have to be played to be fully appreciated. Hanglyman 2. Hanglyman 2 has the exact same maps as Hanglyman, except the maps are green and the rules in place seem to be the same or near the same as Hack'em 2. To repeat a little, when you consume the power pills, not all of the ghosts will turn blue. When you consume the fruit, all 4 ghosts are energized but disappear from view until they flash. Consuming them will reward you with a double point value bonus. In this game mode, the fruit that appear are the same as the fruit in the Hack'em 2 game mode. Coke can, martini, pea pod, apple, grapes, Galaxian, loaf of bread, and stack of pancakes. Intermission screenshots. Pac-Man enters from the right, followed closely by Shadow, Blinky. They exit to the left. Blinky reappears from the left as a scared blue ghost, followed immediately by a much larger super version of Pac-Man. This super version would officially appear in Super Pac-Man. Excerpt from Strategy Wiki. On the second intermission sequence, Pac-Man enters from the right, followed closely by Shadow, Blinky. This time there's a nail sticking out in the path that Pac-Man and Shadow are crossing. Shadow's clothing gets caught on the nail as he passes by it, and the bottom right corners tear off, stuck to the nail. Shadow, whose foot is now visible, looks at the nail and then rolls his eyes. Excerpt from Strategy Wiki. On the third intermission sequence, Pac-Man enters from the right, followed closely by Shadow, Blinky, whose torn clothing is clearly sewn back together. After both Pac-Man and Shadow exit to the left, Shadow immediately reappears from the left, appearing disrobed and dragging his clothing on the floor behind him. This disrobed sprite was not reused in any later Pac-Man games, but was seen in a few of the unlicensed bootlegs. Excerpt from Strategy Wiki. More on the gameplay of all 4 games. You are rewarded with a free Hackman after attaining a score of 10,000 points. This is the only free man rewarded, unless it is possible to roll the score, at which point I would assume you could earn another free man. Once you lose all Hackmen, the game is over. Your final score is displayed at the top of the map upon pressing the fire button. You start all over from the same level you left off on. Speaking to the graphics in these games, overall they are pretty good. I love the detail of the word GO appearing at the beginning of each game in the fruit location. But it seems to me it should have had an exclamation point added to it. I would have liked the power pills to be larger and round, but at least they are flashing on and off in the corners. The fruit is nicely detailed, making it easy to discern. You will notice the fruit also starts to fade out just before going away. The ghosts have nice detail and are actually animated as they move. You cannot, however, tell which way their eyes are moving. When you eat a power pill, the ghosts turn blue and have a frown face. Nice detail. On the Hanglyman game types, the ghosts all have flags or stems above their heads. When you eat the ghosts, their point value is displayed. Also a nice detail. and they turn into little eyeballs that are animated in sort of a wiggly fashion, which is better than nothing. But you cannot tell which way they are looking as with the arcade version. The mazes look great, and they flash after level completion. The number of Hackmen, your score, and the current level are all displayed on the top row as opposed to the bottom row. One nitpick is regarding the fruit. When you begin a new level or start over, the fruit is displayed in the center briefly, then disappears, teasing you. I believe this was intentionally done to notify you which difficulty level you are now beginning. The ghost cage is great, and the ghosts bounce up and down until released. The sounds in all 4 games are pretty good. There's a nice introduction sound, the background siren is present, the sound for eating wafers is a nice one. However, using real hardware, you only barely make out the sound of Hackman eating the wafers, much too low a volume. I find this to be a bit of a disappointment. There's a pretty good sound for eating the power pill, and it temporarily replaces the siren until the power pill wears off. When you eat a ghost, there's a nice sound effect that plays until all the eyeballs return to the ghost cage. When you die, there's a sound effect. At first, I did not like the dying sound effect, but I have come around to liking it now. There is a satisfying sound played when you eat the fruit. The intermission sequences have music that mimic arcade Pac-Man. The left difficulty switch controls the ghost's intelligence. In setting A, all 4 ghosts are as aggressive as the red ghost. In setting B, all the ghosts except for the red one move randomly around the maze. The right difficulty switch controls the speed of your Hack'em Man. In position B, Hackman is faster. The wafers do not slow him down. In this mode, Hackman is always faster than the ghosts. Since faster equals easier, this is the mode I prefer to play in. You can alternate between the game modes and the number of ghosts on each map simply by pressing Game Reset on your console. Pressing the Game Select button will switch between all the fruits on a given map, slightly increasing difficulty along the way. The TV type switch actually pauses the play so that you may take a bathroom break. This is a nice feature to have since, in my opinion, that switch is highly underused. Important notes. If you toggle any switch beside the TV type switch, the current game will be reset. This will prevent you from switching the speed and/or difficulty on the fly and would combat at least that form of cheating. Either joystick can be used to move Hack'em. Pro tip. Nukey Shay shared with us a sort of Easter egg, more of an undocumented feature, quoting Nukey Shay. If you hold up on both controllers when starting a game, you will begin at level 254. Just a little split screen development thing I left in. Level 255 features a simulated rollover bug. End quote. You see, arcade Pac-Man would not render properly on level 256, making it unplayable. It looks like Nukey Shay has emulated this defect and given us a way to check it out without having to play all 255 levels. Observed glitches on real hardware. I have ran across the instance where when the ghosts are energized and if 2 of them are overlapping when you attempt to eat them, only one of them is consumed. I have also run across the instance where on the top left corner on the Hack'em game mode, when consuming the power pill with a ghost chasing closely, I was able to get past one of the wafers without consuming it. During long games, I observed the whole map flash briefly during a game. This glitch also happens when the attract or title screen completes. One time after losing my last man on the Hangly Man game mode, the game totally reset back to the opening, as if I had reset the power. I have passed through a ghost while making a 90-degree turn without incident. Pause mode inversion. If you start the game with the TV type switch set to BW, the game will start normally. The pause feature will then be activated upon switching back to color. This is the opposite of normal. To me, even though the name of this game is Hack'em, this is not just a hack. I consider it a whole new homebrew version of Pac-Man. I would have killed to have had this game back in the 80s. This fits somewhat neatly between Atari 2600 Pac-Man and Atari 2600 Miss Pac-Man, in that it is an improvement on Atari 2600 Pac-Man, and it has more than one game map. It actually contains 4 distinct games. Speaking to the 2 Pac-Man-like games, Hack'em and Hangly Man, the ones with the blue maps, I prefer the first one, Hack'em, since it mimics the arcade version. The second one has the extra warp tunnels and thus a little bit more complexity, which can be a good thing. The Hack'em 2/Hangly Man 2 game types represent a new twist on classic Pac-Man. throwing in a few surprises along the way. I prefer Hack'em 2 since there seems to be a little more variety and the map is more familiar. I have to say, they take some getting used to. These game types further extend the playability, adding many more hours of Pac-Man style fun. I guess you can call me a purist, but I really do prefer the original arcade Pac-Man over arcade Hangly Man. I give a lot of credit to Nukey Shay for putting all of this together. I love it when programmers take the time to add sufficient polish to their product. That's what he has done here. This is an excellent hack of Pac-Man and a nice interpretation of Hangly Man, combining 4 separate games in one. Highly recommended.